Okay, let's go. All right, Parshat Seitzei. We are picking it up on Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Just one thing I forgot to mention yesterday. On page 4. Oh, whoa, am I off over here? I'm in the wrong book. Page 1046. Okay, so it says like this. We're talking about the guy's married to the two wives, and one of the wives is the one that he resents, and the one that he despises ends up having the son who is the firstborn son. So then in Pasuk Yud Zayin, 4 lines from the bottom, it says, Ki es ha-bechor ben ha-snua yakir, loses lo pishnayim. The firstborn, he has to give him a 2 double portion, bechol asher yimotzei lo, ki hu reishiso no lo mishpat ha-bechora. So there are commentaries that take this completely out of context, and they say that this idea, page 1046, this idea of the 2 wives is that you see the word isha. If you take a look at in the middle of the page, it says nashim. Nashim means women, but the word for a creditor in Torah is called a nosheh. Nosheh means I owe you money. And the ultimate Shalom Aleichem, the ultimate creditor is God. We have a debt to God. And the debt to God is to do the Torah and the mitzvahs. Now, there are certain mitzvahs which we enjoy doing, and certain mitzvahs which we find more difficult. Some mitzvahs, chont on Shabbos is a mitzvah. That one's not such a hard one. Getting up for minyan in the morning sometimes a little bit more challenging. Where do you put more energy? Where are we meant to put more energy? It says, not where do we, but where are we meant to? Obviously, the ones that we find challenging are the ones. So there are commentaries that say that this whole idea of having 2 wives, meaning I have 2 different creditors. I have mitzvahs that I love doing, and I have mitzvahs that I find more difficult to do. Who gets the double portion? Meaning the double energy, the double dose. That should go into the mitzvahs that are more difficult. As a rule in life in general, if you ever have that choice of should I do A or should I do B, both which are good things to do. Should I help my friend ask me to move his apartment? He asked me to move. My friend is moving. He's in Kolol and he's moving from one apartment to another. And he asked me to help him move. Or should I attend my Gemara shir? Both are mitzvahs, right? Which one should I do? So there is a guide. One of the guides is that if it's a mitzvah that can't be done by somebody else, then you close your Gemara in order to do that mitzvah. An example would be if your parents are flying into Israel, you have to go to the airport to greet them. Nobody else could do that. They want to see you, believe it or not. They want to see you, and therefore you have to go to greet them. So you don't learn. You have to stop learning in order to do the mitzvah. If there's a little old lady who falls on the street and needs to be taken to the hospital, there's nobody else around to help her. You have to take her and not go to shir. But what about if you're not sure? The guy needs help. I don't know if somebody else will help him. The rule of thumb is usually the one that you want to do is probably the one you shouldn't be doing. Because the Yetzer Hara doesn't usually push us, make us if we're enthusiastic about something, we always have to at least have a certain amount, a certain skepticism. It doesn't mean it's always right, but it's a general rule of thumb that way. It's a general rule of thumb. It comes up in more subtle areas. Like, for example, it comes up very often in family life, where some guy calls me up to help out set up the shul for the Kiddush on Shabbos, and my wife is asking me to stay home and do the dishes. Which one should I do? So the one that you want to do is probably the one you should do least. Most guys don't want to do dishes. That's probably the one you should do. That's Shalom Bayis always comes first. But in this, that's only one example, because it doesn't have to be. It could be a conflict between shul and between your job. A lot of things. Often, what you feel, if you're really enthusiastic about something, be careful. If you're really eager to do a mitzvah, be careful. I mean, we try to get ourselves to the point where we're eager to do mitzvahs. But if it's one versus the other, with a certain amount of, okay. So he says that's where you give the double portion, number one. Number two, there's an interesting statement in the Gemara. The Gemara says that bas tchila simen yafeh lebanim. When a man has a daughter first, that's a good omen for the sons. It's a good sign. Simen yafeh lebanim. The Gemara says bas tchila, you have children, and the firstborn is a daughter. So the Gemara says bas tchila simen yafeh lebanim. That's good for the boys. Why is that? So the plain meaning is, anybody know why would that be? If you have a daughter first, that's a good sign for the boys. Why would that be?
Because she'll have a good impact on them.
Why should she have a good, right, very good.
They understand women a little bit.
No, you mean for later on down the line, an investment down the line when they get married. There is certainly a side benefit. But the plain meaning seems to be that a daughter in general follows, she stays within the fold. And once the oldest one is within the fold, that's going to have an influence. Boys are a little bit riskier. It's a little trickier. Number one. Number two, she helps out in the house. The daughter helps out in the house. She helps raise the boys. She helps the mother raise the boys. That's what daughters can, a 9-year-old girl could basically run the house. 9-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl could basically run the house. A 46-year-old man can't. A 9-year-old girl could. And a what do you call it? So having a daughter first it's a good sign. But one of the Mepharshim says having a daughter first is good for the boys because then there's not going to be fighting, because nobody's getting a double portion. Once you have a daughter, so nobody gets a double portion if they're no firstborn. So normally, if you have a firstborn son, then the father dies. So if there are 5 sons, the way you divide up the inheritance is you divide into 6 portions. And the oldest one, he doesn't get double of everybody else. He gets a double portion, meaning you divide it up into 6 portions, into 5 sons, 6 portions, he gets 2 of the 6. Everybody else, I understand he was the firstborn. That's the law. But at the end of the day, it's a bit of a rusty knife. He's getting a double portion. It depends when. Depends when the miscarriage was. But at the end of the day, even a miscarriage doesn't block the firstborn over there. It blocks it from pidyon haben, not from the inheritance. But if there's a daughter, so boom, game over. She doesn't get a double portion, and none of the boys get it. She doesn't get any portion at all. I think I told you. My friend had 10 daughters. He had 10 girls. 10 girls, and then he had a son. So most people's reaction was, wow, mazel tov, a boy, wow, yeah, after 10 girls, wow. I have another friend who's a brisker. His reaction was, 10 girls just lost their inheritance. Because a girl inherits if there are no sons. If there's one son, he gets everything. So as soon as that boy was born, 10 girls you just lost their hair. Like, remember we learned with the daughters of Tzlavchad. He had 5 daughters. They wouldn't have said a word if there was one boy. There was one boy. That was his reaction, the brisker's reaction. As soon as the kid was born, he said, well, everybody else was gaga, mazel tov, wow, a boy after 10 girls. Wow. And this guy said, well, 10 girls just lost their inheritance. Clinical, straight to the point. Okay. Now, take a look at the next thing. This is what we got to yesterday. Ki yeli ish ben sora remora. A guy has a wayward son. Mora means I think he translates here as probably as rebellious, wayward and rebellious. But the word mora also comes from the word, what's a mora in Hebrew? A teacher. He's a ben sora umora, which, by the way, that's why Torah is called Torah, because Torah comes from the expression of hora'ah, teaching, educate. It's all the same root. That's what Torah teaches us. Torah is to teach us. So he's a ben sora umora. He's an instructor. Who does he instruct? He's instructing his parents, like all teenagers. I think it was Mark Twain who said, when I was 16, my father knew very little. When I was 26, I was amazed at how much he gained, how much he improved in 10 years. And somebody once said, the older I get, the smarter my father becomes. You ever hear that expression? Which is true. All of a sudden, all those things, teenagers think they know everything. And at the end of the day, so he's a Sven Sora More. He's telling his parents, he knows everything. Number one. Number two, we're going to see based on the end of this halacha, his actions are an indication of where he's going. He's a ben sorer umore. His rebelliousness is an indication of where this is going. And this is possibly the most difficult to understand mitzvah, if you take it literally, possibly the most difficult to understand mitzvah in the Torah. Einenu shomea b'kol avivu v'kol imo. He does not obey his parents. V'yisru oso. They take him to court and he's whipped. V'lo yishma aleim. And then he repeats his offense. What's his offense? That he goes and he consumes a certain amount of wine and a certain amount of meat. In short, he's a teenager. You say teenagers stop eating just enough to sit down to dinner and continue eating. So he's a glutton, and he's eating meat and he's eating wine, and it has to be that he steals it from his father and eats it off the property, not that he stole it somewhere else and eats it on his father's property. It has to be that it's a certain level of the meat is cooked but not fully cooked. What you guys call what's your steak tartare, right? It's some sort of level of half cooked, medium rare, but very rare. And he drinks steals a certain amount of wine. At that point, the parents take him to court, and the court gives him a whipping. And he disregards it, and he does it again. So what do? V'tafsu bo avi v'imo. His parents take hold of him. V'hotzio oso el zikne iro el shar mekomo. They take him out to the elders. V'amru el zikne iro b'neinu zeh sorer umore. Our son is rebellious. Einenu shomea b'kolenu. Zolo v'sove. He's a glutton and a drunkard. My roommate in college. Urgamu kol anshe iro ba'avoni v'mes. The people of his town stone him to death. Ubiarta harami kirbecha. You have to remove the evil. V'chol Yisrael yishu v'yiro. The entire people see this. What's going on, gentlemen? What is this? A teenager, and it's only a certain period of time when he's at the onset of puberty for 3 months. It's got to take place in that window of time. If he's 14 or if he's 16, doesn't work. None of it applies. It's got to be, there's a 3 month window where this could take place. And what did he do? He drank, he did what many teenagers do. He just overate, got a little drunk. And then, what's the punishment? Stoned to death. What's going on? So the Gemara, pretty harsh, right? So the Gemara says that a ben sora omar is nidon al shem sofa. We judge him based on a projection of where this is going. Better he should die innocent than he should die guilty. What will happen down the line? Eventually he's innocent of the death penalty. Better he should die innocent of the death penalty than guilty of the death penalty. Because down the line, he'll eventually need his fix. He'll stand at a crossroads. He'll murder somebody for the money, and then he'll be liable for the death penalty. Literally liable for death penalty. Let's take him out of commission. Let's do him a favor and take him out of commission now. That's what the Gemara says. Okay, what's the Torah telling you? The Torah is telling you that there are certain times in life you can make a projection. We see where this is going. If at the onset of his adulthood, right in the roots, we see that he's out of control, that out of control is going to spiral continuously till he eventually murders somebody. By the way, the commentaries ask, yeah, but murder isn't punishable by stoning. Murder is punishable by beheading, which is a lighter form of execution. So why is he stoned? The worst thing he's going to do is murder somebody. So why is he stoned? The answer is because what if you murder somebody on Shabbos? It's Shabbos desecration also. That is stoning penalty. So eventually he's going to get to that. So the Torah says, well, let's do him a favor. Take him out of commission right now. Then the Gemara comes along and the Gemara says, there never was and never will be a Ben Sora or Mora. The circumstances are too remote in order to actually have this literally take place. Why? The parents have to be, the Gemara says, they have to have the same voice tone, they have to be the same height, they have to look the same, meaning that there's a balance over there. There's a certain balance between the parents. And it has to be a certain amount of meat with a certain amount of wine, in certain circumstances, at a certain period of time, and with warning. The whole thing is so remote that it never happened. So why did the Torah write it? Says the Gemara, Drosh v'kabel schar. Study it and you'll be rewarded. What does that mean? So it sounds like the Torah is like, well, good, we get a freebie in Torah. We get to study this because every mitzvah of Torah, every word of Torah is a mitzvah. So study this. And by the way, we learned some interesting Torah over here. Instead of a migu and instead of a bari and a shema, we're learning about, over appetite, teenagers. But it means drosh v'kabel schar. Study what the Torah is telling you. What does it mean that the parents, if you take a look at the top of page 1048, he doesn't obey his parents. The parents didn't have the same voice. What does it mean they didn't have the same voice? How father and mother have to have the same voice tone? It means that the parents don't share the same voice. The parents aren't on the same page. If either of the parents has some sort of physical imperfection, for example, one of them is missing a hand, he's automatically not a ben sorah Amora. If the parents are not balanced in their appearance and in their sound, he's not a ben sorah Amora. Why not? Torah is telling you that if there's anything in the life, nowadays it's a big word, trauma. I hate trauma. Everybody had trauma. Who didn't have trauma? Everybody's had trauma in their life. If there's any trauma, we can't fault the kid. But if circumstances were perfect in this kid's life, but by the way, nobody has perfect circumstances. If circumstances were perfect, he's got the perfect parents, and he lives in the perfect place, and the White Sox are losing, perfect situation. And then he goes off and he's out of control, so then this isn't here. We got to take him out of commission because this is going to spiral out of control. If any of those factors change, then it's not his fault. Can't blame him. He could be worked with. There's room to work with him. There's room to educate him. But if he's out of control to such an extent, everything is perfect, and you went off. You're the Jesse James who went out. You're out of control. At that point, he has to be taken out of commission. But it never happened, and it never will happen. Literally, Torah is teaching you what is an addiction, and we live in the world of addictions, don't we? Today, everything's an addiction. When I was growing up, addiction meant some sort of chemical in the body. That's what an addiction was. And if you didn't get the chemical, there was a physical withdrawal. That's what addiction was. Today, there's addiction to the phones. There's addiction to gambling. There's addiction to anger. Everything's called an addiction now. That's not what I grew up with, an addiction. An addiction meant that you're doing something where there's a chemical in the body. You're addicted to alcohol withdrawal. We are addicted to caffeine. Many people are addicted to caffeine. You don't drink coffee. So then you know what Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur is like without coffee. That's called an addiction, and that's called withdrawal. Nicotine, caffeine, it could be anything that a person's addicted to. Today, we understand that if you leave a kid out of control, parents have to control their children. Control doesn't mean that you stand over them with a whip. It means to supervise your children and try to educate them and show children there can be limitations in life. How much? If I had an answer for that, one clear answer for that, I'd be a very wealthy man. And that's like the guy who said, before I got married, I had 3 theories on raising children. Now I have 3 children and no theories. Because every kid's different. Every kid is different, and every set of parents is different. And there's a lot of, what kind of communication between the parents and what kind of finances in the house? There are a lot of different factors. And that's what the Torah is teaching you here. Okay. One of the commentary says, one of the ideas over here is that where does he come from? Where does this Ben Sorah Amora come from? He comes from the father, the woman that the father married at the battlefront, right? That's what the Torah says. You're going to end up with a. What does he see? That's an indication of the father. What does he see in his father? He sees that his father has superficial values. And a man who's got superficial values in that area, chances are he's got superficial values in his Yiddishkeit. He sees that his father's gartel is to impress the neighbors, and he sees that his father shuckles, and his father talks about learning, but he never learns. He sees that his father is superficial. So what do you want from him? What do you want from this kid? I think I told you there's a kid in the school. There's a kid in this school who got caught stealing. He took a wallet out of another kid's briefcase from school. So the Rebbe caught him red-handed. Says, Zalman, come here. I'm taking you to the principal's office. So he goes, okay. You don't seem very worried about it. But I'm not. So he says, okay. Takes him to the principal's office. Principal says, this is very severe. You're in a lot of trouble. He says, yeah. You don't seem very worried about it. He says, I'm not. He says, yeah, I'm going to call your father. He says, yeah. He says, you don't seem very worried about it. He says, I'm not. He says, well, why not? He says, my father's going to be proud of me. He says, why's your father going to be proud of you? So my father walks around all day bragging about how much he cheats the Internal Revenue Service. My father's going to be proud of me. The kid sees the father. The father thinks that halachically it's okay to cheat on your taxes, which it isn't. The father's mind, taking a wallet is something you don't do. To cheat the government, that's okay, because he's got all the rationalization. They're cheating me anyway. They're stealing from me anyway. The kid doesn't see the difference, though. The kid doesn't see the difference. The kid sees the father superficial. He lives in, the father, his values are superficial. So the kid says, what do I need with though? What kind of, come on. Who are you trying to kid? And therefore, the parents have to be that's what they're drosh v'kabel schar. Study this and you'll be rewarded. Study this section. You'll be rewarded because your children. Now look at the next section. Pasuk Chav Beis. When a man sins and he's guilty and he's put to death, v'tolisa oso al eitz. They have to hang his body on a tree. A tree, by the way, eitz doesn't mean a tree as much as a gallows. They put him up, they put the body up. This is for two averas, for blasphemy and for idol worship. If he's executed for blasphemy, after he's executed, they put him up and then take him down immediately. What do they do with the body? Lo solin nivloso al ha'etz. Don't leave his body on the tree, on the gallows. Ki kofor sikverenu bayom hahu. You bury him on that day. This is the source, by the way, that we learn same-day burial in Torah. You don't leave somebody who dies, you don't leave it overnight. Somebody who's died, you try to bury as soon as possible. There are circumstances, for example, if relatives have to come in, if relatives have to get to the funeral, or if it's a gadol, a Torah, one of the Gedolei Torah, and you need people to assemble. So then you could hold off, you could wait until everybody gets there. But many times in Yerushalayim, the minhag is not to wait. Yerushalayim bury people at night, even as soon as possible, and it's better for the neshama. The sooner the body is buried, the better it is for the neshama. That's why the idea that they have one of the worst things that could be for a person who's killed, what's his name in Iran? What's his name? The guy who got Khamenei should rest in pieces. So he what do you call it? They didn't bury him for who knows how long was it? It was a couple of months till they buried him. That's torture for the soul.
On Shabbos.
Huh?
If someone dies on
if they die Friday night, you have to wait till Motzei Shabbos. Then you have to wait till Motzei Shabbos. But otherwise you get buried as Friday. That's better for the neshama. Number one. Kikilas elokim tolui. It's a degrading to God to leave the body up too long. Now, I just want to show you where it says in where is it? The next one. Sorry, the next one. Perek Chaf Beis. Okay. Now we get to lost objects. In the world at large, there's an idea of finders, keepers, losers, weepers. I got another minute. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, which is not a Torah idea. By the way, there was just an incident in Belgium. Did you hear about this? There was a construction. They're doing construction on an old building in Belgium, and the construction workers broke through a wall, and they found 49 gold bars and gold coins that are worth upwards of $10 million. And the law in Belgium is that you put it aside for 5 years to see if anybody claims it. So far there have been 3 claims. People suddenly have claimed that they're related to somebody who's related to somebody who owned that building, and one of those. And after 5 years, if nobody claims it, then the construction workers and the guy that had a thing, then they have a chance to get at it, at $10 million. So the idea of find your keepers, losers, weepers doesn't work in halacha. Okay, we have to stop. We'll continue tomorrow with this in Mirz Hashem.
Correct.